So as I mentioned earlier, my name's Kristen Fletcher. I'm with the Haley Public Library, and tonight's program is Grow Your Own Medicinal Herbs by Master Gardener Manon Gaudreau. Manon has taught many classes with us, and if you've listened to any of her talks, you know that she's always such an engaging and knowledgeable speaker. Manon started gardening in 2005 when her daughter asked her a question, but she didn't know the answer. Since then, Manon has been looking for answers and sharing those answers with our community. After studying seed saving with local gardener and nationally recognized seed saver Bill McDorman, Manon became a master gardener and helped establish the Valley Victory Gardens. She is the director of the Wood River Seed Library and has taught classes on gardening and Qigong locally for many years. Please join me in welcoming Manon Gaudreau.
Thank you, Kristen, for the nice introduction. For those of you who came in after I said that, there's coffee substitute, which is a medicinal preparation I made. It's not coffee over there, it's coffee substitute, serve yourself. There's also some herbal teas, little tea bag, you can choose yours. There's boiling water. And there's a soup, herb soup that I made this morning. It's fresh, made with organic chicken broth that I made and herbs from my garden. Great. So I would like to start with taking a time to breathe, just taking a breath and coming home to yourself. So if you feel comfortable with that, close your eyes, maybe put your hands on your heart, and just feel your breath. And maybe doing a little gesture to breathe in, opening your chest, and breathing out, bringing your hands down again. And I invite you to invite or think about people who are gardeners who have been teachers for you. I'd like to invite all the herbalists, our ancestors who have cultivated herbs or transmitted knowledge of herbs as medicine. I would like to invite the spirit of the herbs themselves to come and join us for this presentation. Thank you. So, herbs, for me, it's holistic, so it includes our soul, our spiritual aspect, as well as our body. So why grow your own medicinal herbs? I like to think that we were born into the Garden of Eden to learn to sustain life. And if I want to be in balance, I have to connect with nature. I'm eating nature. I'm eating the produce from nature. And if I want to be in balance, nature has to be in balance as well. So I need a connection with nature, and I need to preserve the balance of nature so nature can feed me. And it's the Garden of Eden because Mother Nature provided us with all the herbs that we need to heal ourselves when we need that. All the herbs that we need to cleanse our body on a yearly basis. So Mother Earth takes care of us, and we need to take care of Mother Earth to stay in balance. And if we're not so much in balance, hopefully get the awareness that, oops, I'm a little off balance, I will do something to correct my balance and to get back in balance before I go all the way to, oh, I'm sick and I have to consult a physician. So if we go that far, it's because we did not listen to the cues that came before that. So for me, being an herbalist, and I call myself a community herbalist, and I invite you all to become community herbalists. It cultivates, when we are herbalists, we cultivate this awareness of being in balance, and it's much easier to bring back balance if we're just a little bit off of balance than wait till we're completely off balance. So I'd like to know, what would be your reasons to cultivate herbs, to grow herbs. I talked about being in balance. The next thing would be to have fresh herbs. The herbs we can get from stores, they've been dried. A lot of them came from overseas, from countries that can produce them at a lower cost. But in what conditions were they grown? How were they harvested? Were they harvested at their prime? Because there's an economic factor attached to production of herbs. Sometimes corners can be cut off and the herb may not be as strong or as healthy as it could be. When you grow your own, you have freshness, the same as if you grow your own lettuce and you pick it fresh from your garden. It's not like buying it from the store that it's been sitting there for a long time and traveled a long way to get there. So we get freshness, and we can eat our herbs fresh rather than eating them dry or in preparations. We can eat them fresh, like this soup I made. I put fresh herbs in there that were fresh from my herb box. So it's more vital. And locally grown herbs are adapted to our climate. We live in this climate. Our local herbs are adapted to this climate. So ideally, we should eat local food and we should use local herbs as much as possible. Sorry, I can't see very well, Kristen. I have to come in here to see what's written. This is an invitation. I would like this valley to develop its own medicinal shed so that we're more sustainable and more autonomous. We don't have to depend on medicine that comes from elsewhere. We can develop our own. And it's amazing the number of things that we can grow ourselves right here. And the last thing is actually maybe the most important one. Unfortunately, a lot of herbs are going extinct. Herbs grew in nature. They grew in the wild. They grew in forests. They grew in tropical forests. They've been over-harvested. And there's been a great loss of habitat. There's less and less wild spaces where the wild herbs can grow. And the most potent herbs are in the wild. So many herbs, unfortunately, are going extinct, and if you go to that website, unitedplantsavers.org, they have a list of the herbs that are in danger of extinction, and they suggest to you other herbs that you could use instead of these herbs, or you could grow them. You could cultivate them in your own garden, or if you have an area of wild space on your property, like Diana does, you can allow some of these herbs, which a lot of them are weeds, a lot of them are considered weeds, even noxious weeds, some of them are called, but some of those are our best medicines. So if you have a wild space, you could grow wild plants in those spaces. So that's my invitation. I wish so much that we could have grow our own shed here and support each other and share the herbs that we grow. So where do we grow our herbs? The picture on the left is my dear teacher. It brings tears to my eyes when I talk about her and think about her. She's the lady that developed these teas called traditional medicines. She created that company with a partner 30 or 35 years ago, and she's no longer into that business. But her mission is, she's the one who created the Plant Savers Association. And she wants to train as many people as she can as a herbalist to use the herbs. Anyway, she now lives in Vermont, so this is her house in Vermont, and she has an extensive garden there and a school also. But she has these plants that grow on the wall of her house. So you could grow this plant there is mullein, and normally mullein is in the wild. And I actually brought a leaf of mullein here. If you've never touched mullein, I'll let you pass it around. And mullein is like velvet. It's also called the toilet paper of the wild. So, and mullein, I've seen it to about this height here, but look at this plant. It's probably 12 feet high or more, because she's providing a good fertile ground to grow it in. And next to it, she has a clematis, a vine. Anyhow, the point is that you can grow herbs in the wild, but you can also bring these plants that are wild into your garden. And you have to know how big a space they need, or you have to know that some of these weeds are invasive, and everybody knows that weeds can get invasive. So if you plant them in your garden, you want to plant them in an area that is contained, like a container, a pot, a raised bed, or in the lovely gardens that were done traditionally in France. They have space. They delimit the space by having stones or gravel. They have limits. They give limits to the plant. In my garden, I have about 20 pots, I think. So each plant has its own pot. So I allow it to grow in that pot. I know that otherwise it would spread so much. I have some in my garden, but I have to cut them back every year because they like to sprawl. So you can grow even indoors. I've been growing herbs indoors all winter, just in a flower box, a rectangular flower box by a window. You can grow herbs that way. And rock gardens is a very nice way in your landscape. If you have a rock garden, flowers, different things, you can intersperse that with some of the herbs that you want, the medicinal herbs that you would like. Or an edible landscape, the same. If you have a vegetable garden, you can have some herbs growing through there. And if you have a plant that would sprawl, you could actually have a pot, cut off the bottom of the pot and plant that pot in the garden, and that limits the roots, so the roots won't sprawl under the soil. And community gardens, we could have a community garden where all we do is cultivate medicinal herbs. Why not? So any questions so far? Yeah.
Is there a section of the community garden that's dedicated just to herbs over by the courthouse?
Okay, the question is, the Hope Garden next to the courthouse, are there herbs in there? There are some herbs in there. It's mostly vegetables. They mostly want to produce calories in there, but there are some herbs in there. And I have collected seeds. Once in a while they'll say, oh, this plant is in seed, Manon, come and gather the seeds. or gather the herbs, they tell me. But there's not enough for everybody to go, so I don't even want to tell you which herbs, because I reserve them for myself. Whoops, I hit the wrong button. Next. Okay, so that's the mullein plant again, and is the leaf still circulating? Yeah. Sorry. Mullein you can get anytime. Some authors repeat the question. Oh, the question is mullein more potent when it's small as compared to when it's big? The first year, mullein will produce just a rosette like that, and it's low on the ground, and it can be about this big. So it actually depends on what component of the plant, what component of the medicine you want. Mullein, the whole plant is usable. The flowers, as well as the leaves. The young leaves may have more of a component compared to the old leaves. Of course, the older leaves will be a little coarser, but the first year, there's only this little rosette, and the second year, it will send up that long spike and have flowers on top. And this jar contains the tips of the plant that have been dried. Sorry, hit that button again. That's okay. So you can pass that around too. So the flowers, are yellow, and the flowers again have a little different medicinal use compared to the leaves. So it depends which part of the plant you want, but generally speaking, it's like anytime, go grab a leaf of mullein. It's very good as a respiratory medicine.
Would the information be in that book that we have in the library?
Yes. Yes. And okay, will the information that I'm talking about, is that in the book that we're recommending? Yes. Yes, and you can also do a search online and find some information. But I find that we have better information in books than what we find online, because if you do a search online, the searches will direct you to commercial sites, and sometimes the information may not be what you would really be looking for. So herbalists like to have books, and books from herbalists that are practicing herbalism, that have an experience with the plants, not books that were published by a reporter that is reporting information from other sources. So I highly recommend getting books from herbalists. So does that answer all the questions so far? So next, which herbs to grow? These are all herbs from my garden. So on the far end, there is borage, and then roses, and this one is milkweed, I believe. All plants are medicinal, really. All flowers are medicinal. All herbs, all culinary herbs are medicinal. Some are stronger medicines than others, but I regard all flowers as medicine, really. And before we go further, one thing we can do with herbs is we can do a little, it's called a dream pillow. So you just take a little cotton bag and you fill it with herbs from your garden. And in here I put, there's many things, but lemon balms, different flowers, mostly aromatic plants. And so I'm likely to put any roses, of course, lavender, and we can pass that around. And this is something that you can put by your, here. It's something that you can put by your pillow when you go to sleep at night. You leave it on your bed, and before going to sleep, you just ruffle it a little bit, and it will keep for up to 3 months, the scents. And you don't want the scent to be too strong. You want it to be a little subtle, and these scents work on your nervous system especially. So it's, traditionally people did that all the time. And nowadays what we find is just fake scents, perfume. Huh?
Did you just make this one?
I just made that yesterday. I just made that yesterday. Yes. Well, these were dried herbs. Oh, the question was what stage were these plants in when I put them in? If you have fresh herbs, you could put fresh herbs in them. It might stain your little bag, might stain your bed, but in that bag I have dried herb petals and different plants. And you ruffle them, and they really smell strong. I mean, they really smell good, not strong, not that strong.
How many different ones will you put in
Typically, the question is how many varieties would you put in one bag? I think I have about 10 in that bag, but typically it's 5 or 6. And so you want something that smells a little sweet, and you want something that smells a little bitter. You want really all the different smells to combine in this pillow. Anyway, most books talk about them if you want recipes. But basically, you can go in your garden, collect lemon balm or mint or any rose petal, any petals from any plant, and put them in. And even if you don't smell, it may still have an effect. It's like the hormones in the body. Very, very little quantity is effective, even if we don't smell it. So which herbs should you grow? I will start by saying before growing plants, do an inventory of the plants that grow around you, because there's already many plants growing, and it might be in your backyard, it might be in your neighbor's backyard, it may be in a park near you. So know what you have around you, and then look up in medicinal books what's the medicinal value of this plant. And people don't think about that. You see a willow, well, the bark, the inner bark of the willow is a strong medicine. Oak leaves is a strong medicine. Hawthorn berries and hawthorn leaves is a great medicine for the heart. Dandelions, Everybody's got dandelions in their neighborhood. Dandelions is one of the best medicine that we have. It helps the liver, the kidneys, the digestion. It's everywhere, and it's really good. Yeah, and he is saying that in French the name is dent de lion. It's the tooth of the lion, and it actually purifies the blood. So we can eat or make a medicine out of the root, of the leaves, the flowers, like the whole plant. And actually, last year I decided I was going to collect the seeds from the dandelions that look the best around my garden. And I can share them with you if you want to grow some dandelions. Start them indoors and eat them. Yes, why not? Right now there's too much snow. Yeah. Oh, she's saying that dandelions and other little flowers, the first ones that come in the spring, feed the pollinators. So that's another important role of them. But I'm sure you've heard that dandelion flowers have been used to make wine, and the leaves are bitter, and bitter herbs, which most of the greens are really good for digestion. So when I make a salad, I go out, I grab some dandelion leaves, and I add them to my salad. Or I just go out, put one leaf in my mouth and chew it. And there's my pre-meal digestive bitter. So, many people curse the dandelions. Well, now I love them and I eat them. And I've been harvesting the roots, and the roots are very good to cleanse your liver. And it's better to eat the ones that grow here than to buy them from China or India or wherever. A lot of things come from China and India, a lot of herbs, also from Ukraine and that part of the world. So the first thing is know what grows around you. Even plantain, which grows in grass, that's a medicinal plant. So harvest the leaves, dry them up, and then when you need it as a medicine, you have it. So then all the herbs that you would buy, so all the teas, you could look at all the teas, especially the ones made by traditional medicinals. Look at the ingredients there and see how many of those you could grow, and grow your own herbs to make your own teas. I have tea bags for company, or for my husband who doesn't like to use the loose herbs. But when I make a tea, I always use my loose herbs, and preferably the ones that I have saved from my garden. So, and you can eat your herbs in soups. So, look at all the herbs that you buy that you could grow. And then think about the needs of your body. If you study herbalism a little bit and you know which herbs are especially good for your body. I have weak kidneys, so I know I need herbs that will tonify my kidneys continuously. So that's something I want to grow for myself. Or if you have a weak heart, you could make sure you have an hawthorn tree around that you could use the leaves or the berries, collect the berries in the fall, and from the berries you can make a syrup, a tincture, a tea, or a jam. I mean, there's this book, the little backyard medicine book, tells you how to make all these recipes. So once you've identified these herbs, really take the time to study each herb, what's the benefit of each herb, and take note of what your body needs from all these properties of these herbs. And that's, the grandmothers used to have that knowledge, and they used to be the counselor in their family and help other members of the family to learn the properties of plants and to heal their kids and grandkids. It's really the role of the grandmothers to do that. And then the last part is to start your own apothecary. So once you've been growing these herbs and you've learned how to use them, then learn how to harvest them. And that took me a while. I've been growing herbs for 20 years. And there were some herbs in my garden that I would grow from year to year and never harvested because I was too shy. I didn't quite know. I didn't tame that plant yet or whatever. But since I've been studying with Rosemary Gladstar, my favorite teacher, it's such a delight to, when a plant is at its prime, okay, I will harvest it. When it's fall, it's time to harvest the roots. So I'll go and uproot plants, clean them up, put them in my, chop them up, put them in my dehydrator, and then once they're really dry, I put them in little jars. So I have my own apothecary, and now it's to the point where I don't have enough space in my house to save them all. I'm saving so many, plus I'm buying some that I have not grown yet. And once you start, then you find there's an abundance of medicine available to you for free. And I invite you to share that knowledge and that medicine with other people. One person cannot grow all the herbs. So maybe you're growing, a set of your favorite herbs, and another person is growing another set. And if we could create some kind of a network in the region here, and we can share, oh, I need this herb. Who would have this herb in my neighborhood? There's a Facebook page called 5B Resilient Gardens, and they are 5B Resilient. They changed the name of it to just 5B Resilient. And you can go on that Facebook page and just put a post there. Who's got this herb? Or you have some herbs and you just made a tincture. I made this tincture from herbs in my garden. Nasturtiums, garlic, echinacea, and Oregon grape I didn't have. I used one I bought, but the other ingredients are things I had fresh in my garden. So I have a fresh echinacea plant. I dug out from the ground, and I took the root and I took the flower, and I made this little tincture. But when you make a tincture, you make a big batch. You make like 2 quarts at a time. Well, that's a lot of little bottles. You can share them with everybody. That's when I need to make a gift now to someone I love, I give them a tincture that I made. So these are some of the herbs in my garden. Comfrey was one of the ones that comfrey, like nettles. I had it because it was good to have in the garden. It's a great composter. If I plant tomatoes or any vegetable that likes calcium, comfrey has a lot of calcium. So I would chop the leaves, plant them where the roots of the plant were going to be, and it's a great nutrient for plants. And it's also a great decomposer. When you chop it, you put it in your compost pile, it brings a lot of beneficial bacteria to your compost pile. So I would harvest it 3 times a year and put it in my compost. And finally, I decided, okay, I can use it as a medicine, and it's a wonderful, wonderful medicine. I cannot recommend that everybody use it, though, because there's been a controversy. There are some types of comfrey that have killed people in Russia, and so in many places it's illegal, like in the US, it's illegal to sell a medicine based on comfrey to ingest. However, it's been used for thousands of years by many, many, many people who were healed by this. And I've heard so many stories of people who were healed, especially if people break a bone. It's an amazing healer of bones and skin, actually. Most of the salves that we made for the skin would have comfrey in them, both the root and the leaves. So that's an amazing plant, but it has a way of expanding from year to year. So you have to know, you have to bring it back to the space that you want it to take. Yeah, comfrey is a great pollinator. All of these herbs flower. Some of them we use mostly the leaves, but they all flower, and all the flowers from these medicinal plants are really great for pollinators. They heal us. They also heal animals and bees, and they feed insects. They feed animals, and it's a medicine. My daughter started having hens to produce eggs, and then she realized, the hens would like a chickweed, for example, to heal themselves. So she planted some chickweed and other medicinal herbs next to the chicken coop, and the chickens will eat this plant or this plant depending on what they feel they need. And so we can learn from that. So my daughter learned that she gets free medicine from these weeds that she can grow in the right place. And then mint, of course, mint grows everywhere in anything. It's really easy to grow, and it's a wonderful medicine. It's wonderful tea. And calendula is a great flower that we grow in garden. I've been teaching using calendula among other vegetables in your garden. It's a great plant. It's a great companion plant for so many other plants. And again, I was shy of using it for myself, and I started using the flowers in many preparations, and it's a wonderful medicine. Especially, it's a healer. It's full of vitamin A, and it's a wonderful healer for the skin. And it's gentle, but it's very nourishing also. So you can eat the petals. You can put the petals in your salads and eat them. You can make a tea with it.
What kind of gel? I'm using a gel. I have poison ivy. It is better than anything.
Yeah,
Gel.
calendula gel.
Put it in the refrigerator, and then you use it on any kind of skin thing. If it's something in the garden that makes you itch,
Yeah.
fluid, it works kind of
Yeah, she's saying that calendula gel is a wonderful healer. You can take a plant, crush it, and apply that directly to a wound, or you can use it to make a salve, and then it keeps for a long time. You can use it to make a lip balm. I made a little lip balm for myself. I got the empty tube from Natural Grocers, and then you mix beeswax, a little honey, olive oil, and you steep some flowers in oil before you steep your flowers in olive oil, and then you use that oil. You put that in a little, I put that in a little pot on a mug warmer to melt the wax, mix everything together, and then I pour it in the tube, and voila, I have my personal, oops, I keep hitting it. I have my personal lip balm. And again, you make a lip balm, you can make like 2 dozen of those in 5 minutes. Share them with your neighbors. You know, it's not very costly. It's so easy to make. My next classes will probably be about how to make these preparations. Oh, skip that one. So here we have hawthorn berries on the right. And it's not something you would eat as is. You would cook it and make a jam out of it, or you would make a tincture or a syrup out of that.
Does that grow down by the river? I've seen that in the fall.
I'm not sure. The question is, does hawthorn grow by the river? I'm not sure. Here you can see it's growing in a park in town. But apparently it grows in Agerman. I think one of my neighbors has a tree like that, but I haven't seen the berries in it yet. It's a young one. But I know I've seen it in Garden Valley, closer to, or a little north of Boise. There are a lot of them there. Burdock is another weed that it makes these prickly flowers, and it's an amazing, like dandelion. Burdock and dandelion are my 2 go-to herbs that I drink constantly. I have them right here in my thermos.
Do you go down and I can't get the roots out? I've tried to dig the roots and we're not.
So the question is, how do you get the roots out? The easiest way is to plant them in a loose soil, in a container, and then it's much easier to dig out the root. If it's growing in the wild, and you go to an area where there's a rich humus, then the humus would be a loose soil. But if it's growing in very compacted soil, then it would be really hard to dig out. But sometimes it's worth the effort. If that's all you have, you can water it with warm water. We have a lot of clay in our soil, so you have to be patient. You have to go with a little tool and a little bit at a time.
When I lived by the river, I read that the Chinese brought us burdock. And that's how I so much down there, and the medicinal purposes, especially with the root. And so that's when I was living down there.
Yeah, she's saying that the Chinese brought burdock here, and actually in the United States were made of so many immigrants. A lot of immigrants brought in the seeds of their favorite medicinal plants with them. So we have plants from the east, we have plants from the west. All the immigrants brought their favorite medicinal herbs. And the natives, the Native American people, were using a lot of native plants to America, like Pipsissewa, which is a great, great plant for the kidneys. And so we need to learn to find these plants and grow them and use them for ourselves. I believe so, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, a lot of these herbs are. I'm not sure about the burdock. I know. Do you know, Diane? It's a perennial. Yeah, but it's a perennial, but I'm not sure if it flowers the first year. But it lasts for a long time. And the other plant on the far end here is the hops. So hops is used for beer, to make beer, but it's also an amazing medicine, and it's a good one to put in the little dream pillow. It's a traditional one that people have put in a dream pillow. So if you're starting, then I recommend you start with the culinary herbs and the edible herbs. And a lot of people don't even use herbs at all. And in my culture is from the French culture. I'm a French Canadian, and I do French cuisine. I mean, that's what I do. And we use a lot of herbs. But a lot of people don't even use herbs. Unfortunately, the industry does not use herbs. The industry uses natural and fake flavors. MSG. They add all kinds of things to our food that take the place of these herbs, but these herbs are a store of nutrition. They nourish our body. They're concentrated sources of minerals and all kinds of enzymes, and I could go on and on and on. Plus a good source of the microbiome that we acquire from the plants and from the soil. So, oregano, parsley, cilantro, chives, savory, marjoram, all these herbs, any of those, please grow them and eat them fresh as much as possible, and dry them. I grow my herbs and I dehydrate enough herbs to last me for a couple years, so I don't have to save them every year because I have such a store of them. They're so easy to grow and easy to preserve. So you can start with culinary herbs, and again, learn the medicinal properties. We know how to use them, or maybe I knew how to use them in cooking, but learn what they're good for medicinally. Sage is a great gargle. You make just 3 leaves of sage in half a cup of hot water. Gargle yourself with that. Antiseptic. It's one of the best antiseptic that we have. So you don't need to buy a gargle. Use something natural that won't irritate, that won't have alcohol in it or any preservatives. Herbal teas, I already talked about that. If there are herbal teas you love, grow your own. All the plants that are called aromatics, they're really great for the nervous system, so we can drink them. And this is what I have in this right now today. It's something to tonify my nervous system, to nourish my nervous system. And you can smell them with the use of you can drop this. When you collect your herbs, like lavender, you collect a bunch and then you just hang them to dry. And you can hang them in your kitchen or in your laundry room or in your closet. But if you hang them in your bedroom, then you have the benefit of the smell instead of having it next to your pillow. It's in the air. People used to hang them all around the house. The bitters are mostly all the greens and the ones that come first in the spring, but there are others also that are called bitters, and they're all digestive, so to help our digestive system. And then, in the fall and the spring, it's good to cleanse our body. So grow your own cleansing herbs, and cleansing herbs are also tonifying. It's not just about purging, it's about nourishing the liver as well as cleansing the liver. And then most books will tell you what to have in your first aid kit. You can have a liniment made of alcohol, either drinking alcohol or the other kind that you can't drink. And you steep some herbs in them, and then it becomes an antiseptic instead of using a commercially produced antiseptic. You can use that, or you could grab some plant and put it directly on your skin. There's your antiseptic. But a lot of books talk about the different plants that you should stock up, especially if you have young kids. And then the adaptogen herbs are, if they relieve the stress in our life. They help to rehabilitate our kidneys and our adrenal glands that produce the stress hormones. So there's a wonderful online course that you can buy from Rosemary, where she describes 15 adaptogens, and like one of them is ginger. And you may think, well, you can't grow ginger here. Well, my daughter is in Canada, north from here, and she grows ginger. She's learning how, she's making a little greenhouse for the ginger because it likes humidity. So the plants, some plants are easily grown in our climate, but the plants that are tropical, we have tropical plants indoors, right? Our house plants are mostly tropical plants. So some of the medicinal herbs may be tropical, you grow them indoors. So again, these are my favorites in my garden, the echinacea, dandelions. I actually started 2 years ago to make space in my garden beds. My husband's, well, you may remove the dandelion from the grass area, but not the ones that are growing in my garden. That's the rule. Because I eat them. He won't, but I eat them. And then garlic is my best crop. I grow at least 50 to 70 every year. I mostly grow the stiff-neck garlic. And last year it was one of my homeworks to make garlic oil. So you just steep garlic, fresh out of the ground, steep it in oil, and it's a great medicine for earaches, for swollen joints, for wounds, for colds, and you can put it on your food as a flavoring as well as a medicinal. And another great medicine I made with my garlic is fresh ginger root and fresh garlic root, juiced with the addition of honey. It's only 3 ingredients. And then you put that in a jar, and then you bury that in the ground for 2-3 weeks or a month. And then you dig it out, and you end up with a syrup that tastes absolutely divine, and it's the best immune boosting medicine ever. And I didn't make enough of it. Next year I planted more garlic so I could make more next year, because the friends I give it to come back and say, do you have more of that one? Well, sorry, I ran out. I think it's equal amount of the juice of garlic and ginger, and I can't remember I can give you the recipe.
The garlic that I planted reproduces in the bed.
Mm-hmm.
It has potent, or it was good last year, second year, and
Do you,
or do you let it reproduce?
she's saying that the garlic that she has reproduced themselves in the garden. They reproduce from the bulb, or they reproduce from the seeds that.
I just had 3 I planted 1 year, year before last,
Uh-huh.
and last year I had like 10 in that area.
Uh-huh. Well,
And then so the clove, okay. That's happened, okay.
So sometimes you miss cloves, or if you seed them from bulbils, we always put more bulbils on the ground. And I had some bulbils. I were told the bulbils are when garlic goes to flower, it produces this ball with tiny little cloves all around it, and then each one of these would eventually develop a flower and produce seeds. So the bulbil is not really a seed, it's the precursor to the seeds, but it's a mini clove of garlic. So if your thing is going to this stage and these little bulbils fall in your garden, I was told that these bulbils only last a year. So I had some that were 2 years old, so I thought, well, no good anymore, so I just threw them in my garden. Well, for 3 years, I kept having garlic pop up. So it's not true that they last only 1 year, because I had them more than 1 year, and they're still producing. And I still have a bunch of them in my fridge. If you want some, I'm happy to share. So garlic is a great, great medicine. So this is just a list of all the things that you can easily grow here. And some are from Rosemary's garden or my garden. I have calendula, catnip, chamomile, clematis, comfrey, coriander, dandelion, dill, echinacea, feverfew, garlic, lemon balm, lady's mantle, parsley, mallow, hollyhock, raspberry, mint. Raspberry leaves are medicinal. Rose hips. So I have roses, and the hips are medicinal, the petals are medicinal. Sage, and thyme. And sour cherries. Where is my sour cherry? Sour cherries, I have a sour cherry tree, but unfortunately the birds eat most of them. But when I get to some of them, I pickle them in apple cider vinegar. And then I eat the cherries instead of eating cranberries. And you can use Nankin cherries. You can use, there's different kinds of other cherries you can use. And so I eat the cherries, and then when I run out of the cherries in my jar, I save the juice, and now I have a tincture of the cherries. So now I can use this to make salad dressings. Instead of using regular vinegar, I use this in my salad dressing. So I'm constantly eating all of these medicine in my food. I don't reserve them for, I need a dose of medicine. I eat them in my food, and that's what keeps us in balance all the time. So, in conclusion, my last words are just the fact that we're gardening, the act of gardening and going outside and communing, connecting with the plants and connecting with the spirit of the plant. That's medicine in itself. Just as every gardener knows, gardening is medicine. And being grateful in general, being grateful for the plants, being grateful for the food, being grateful for Mother Nature, being grateful for the company in this room, all of that is medicine also. So I invite you all to become a community herbalist, even if it's just for a few plants on your windowsill, appreciating their medicinal value and sharing them with your neighbors. Thank you, thank you. So, my favorite herb to grow is garlic. It's the one I've had the most success with. And the opposite of that is that's a funny one. A friend of mine who's been living in the valley forever gave me different plants, different herbs from her garden. So she would separate a patch. She said, she had too many. They outgrow their space. So she gave me a bunch of plants. One of them was lemon balm. So I bring it home, and well, I was not consuming it as a tea then. So I got a big patch, lemon balm, and next year I have another patch over there. It's like, okay, I've had enough of lemon balm. I tried to eradicate the lemon balm. Well, the lemon balm survived, and it keeps popping up. And then I start studying with rosemary and realizing, oh, this is one that I should be consuming regularly. So I was saying, oh, thank you. Lemon balm for surviving, for being there for me. And nature has a way of doing that, of producing what we need in our own environment. So there is a connection. There are angels out there. Oh, backyard. I was circulating the book. Is Backyard Medicine by Mrs. Seal, by two people. Their last name is Seal. Backyard Medicine. It's it's a small book. It's worth getting. It's easy to get. And there are many other books also that are really good. I have the list of books that Rosemary recommended that we buy. So if you want more detailed list, I can provide that.
What about purslane? It's really a weed festival, but I've been reading lately. It just showed up in my yard. Now,
I
have you heard of that one? It's not a bird, is it? It's just a
purslane is a plant. I'm not very familiar with it. I have not experimented with purslane.
neighbors that come by and said, oh, you can eat that, so I'm gonna
Right.
It's got a lot of properties.
Is
but
it?
I don't know how to prepare
I wonder if it's in that book.
I worked at a restaurant that they would serve it on their dishes as like a garnish, but it's
it. Okay, just like that, just straight out.
It's not. Purslane is not in that little book, because I have the list here of what's in the book. But there are many other plants that I did not list here, and when you hear from people that they eat it, it may be a good thing. Like chickweed, you can grow chickweed and eat it. Oh, nettle is a wonderful. Yeah, nettle is a great plant when women are having their period. It's rich in iron, among other things. It's rich in magnesium and calcium and many minerals, and it's a great woman medicine. So is raspberry.
How do you harvest it? Just get low and cut, let it fall?
You harvest it when it's at its prime, before it flowers. You need to wear gloves.
Before it flowers.
Yeah, before it flowers, but yeah, it stings. She's saying that you don't want to eat the nettle because it stings your hands. It will sting your mouth too. So, but once you dehydrate it or once you boil it, it no longer stings. So you can put it in soup. Some people eat it fresh, but only the very first leaves in the spring that are not so don't have the sting. But I always cook it. Yes. Ladies' mantle. It's used by ladies. I don't know offhand what the properties are, but look it up. I know it's in my next chapter that I have to study. I haven't studied that one yet, but I know it grows on my property.
So thank you very much, Manon. Thanks everybody for coming today. Let's give Manon another really warm welcome. Thank you so much.